She told me she was flying to Tulum alone to figure out if we should stay together. Posted pictures to make me jealous. Waited for me to panic and chase after her. I didn't text once. The fallout destroyed her life. Hey, Mason here. I thought Layla was different at first. Like, genuinely different. I'd been through enough BS with exes who couldn't just say what they meant, you know? Girls who'd smile to your face, and then you'd find out weeks later they were pissed about something you said at dinner 3 Thursdays ago. I was done with that. So when I met Layla at my buddy's barbecue last summer, and she seemed straightforward, seemed like she actually said what was on her mind, I thought maybe this could be something real. I'm a firefighter, 26, been on the job 4 years now. My schedule's weird, 24 on, 48 off, but I make it work. I'm a guy who shows up. If I say I'm going to be there, I'm there. If I tell you something, it's the truth. That's just how I operate. My old man raised me that way. And honestly, after the last couple relationships imploded because somebody couldn't just be straight with me, I figured that's what I needed to find. Someone honest. Layla worked customer support for some tech company, taking calls all day from angry people about their broken laptops or whatever. She'd come over after her shifts and just collapse on my couch, exhausted, and I'd make dinner. Nothing fancy. I can grill a decent steak, throw together some pasta, that kind of thing. She seemed to appreciate it. Seemed to appreciate me. We'd watch TV, talk about our days, and it felt easy. Normal. I started thinking long-term pretty quick, honestly. Started thinking maybe this was the one where I wouldn't wake up one day and find out she'd been lying about how she felt for 6 months. But then the arguments started. Small stuff at first. I'd forget to text her back during a shift because, I was literally inside a burning building, and she'd get upset. Fair enough, I guess. But the way she'd handle it, man, that's where it got weird. She wouldn't just say she was annoyed or worried. She'd go straight to this place where she'd tell me maybe we shouldn't be together. Maybe this wasn't working. Maybe she should just end it now before it got worse. I started walking on eggshells. You know that feeling? We are constantly calculating what you say, how you say it, making sure you don't set something off. I hated it. It reminded me of my ex, the one who'd play these weird mind games where she'd get mad and then deny she was mad, and I'd spend days trying to figure out what I'd done wrong. That relationship ended when I found out she'd been telling her friends I was controlling, when really I was just trying to understand why she kept shutting me down. I swore I'd never do that again. Never let someone make me feel crazy for just trying to communicate. But with Layla, I kept giving her the benefit of the doubt. She was young, 24. Maybe she just didn't know how to handle conflict yet. Maybe she'd learn. Maybe I was being too sensitive. I tried talking to her about it once. Told her the breakup threats were messing with my head, that I couldn't keep doing this if every disagreement meant the end. She cried, said she was sorry, said she just got scared sometimes that I'd leave her, so she wanted to leave first. I felt bad for her, man. I really did. I told her I wasn't going anywhere, that she didn't need to do that. It got better for maybe a month. Then we had this stupid fight about me making plans with my brother for the weekend. She wanted to do something together. I'd already committed to helping him move, and she lost it. Said I always chose everyone else over her. Said maybe she needed to figure out if she could be with someone who didn't make her a priority. I tried to explain, tried to calm her down, but she wasn't hearing it. She left my place that night and texted me later saying she was going to take a trip. Solo. Said she needed space to think about us, to figure out if this was what she really wanted. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to chase after her, beg her not to go, prove I cared. But another part of me, the part that remembered all the games my ex played, just felt tired, really tired. I told her to do what she needed to do. She seemed surprised by that, maybe even annoyed, but she didn't back down. Said she'd already started looking at flights. That's when I started feeling uneasy. Not sad, not worried she'd actually leave. Uneasy, like something was off about the whole thing. Like this wasn't about needing space. This was about something else entirely.
Hey there, I'm Layla. I know what people probably think. That I was being dramatic, or whatever. But they don't get it. They don't know what it's like to watch someone slowly stop caring, to feel them pulling away inch by inch, until one day you look up and they're gone. That's what always happens to me. Every single time. So yeah, Maybe I test things. Maybe I push a little to see if they'll push back, if they'll fight for me. Is that so wrong? Mason seemed perfect at first. Stable job, decent guy, actually wanted something serious. My last boyfriend, Kyle, started out the same way. Super attentive, always texting, making plans. Then after about 6 months, he just faded. Took longer to respond. Canceled dates. Told me he needed space. 2 weeks later, I saw him on Instagram with some girl from his gym, looking happy as hell. Before Kyle, there was Derek, who straight up ghosted me after 8 months together. 8 months. Just stopped responding one day, like I'd never existed. And before Derek was Matt, who told me he loved me and then moved across the country without even discussing it with me first. Found out through Facebook. So when Mason started showing signs, wanting time with his friends, being unavailable during shifts, making plans without checking with me first, I recognized the pattern. I could feel him starting to drift. I wasn't about to just sit there and let it happen again. I work customer support. I spend 8 hours a day on the phone with people who lie to me about why they broke their devices, who scream at me over things I can't control, who blame me for every problem in their lives. I come home exhausted, emotionally drained, and the one person who's supposed to care about me is off doing his own thing. Not even asking how my day was half the time. I'd bring it up and he'd apologize, but it didn't change. He'd still prioritize his buddies, still make me feel like an afterthought. So I started testing him. Little things at first. Mentioning maybe we weren't right for each other. Seeing if he'd panic, if he'd reassure me. And he would. He'd promise to do better, hold me, tell me he wasn't going anywhere. It felt good, you know? Felt like proof he actually cared. But then he'd slip back into the same patterns, and I'd have to remind him again what was at stake. I knew the trip would get his attention. I'd been thinking about it for a while, honestly. A solo trip to Tulum. Somewhere beautiful. Somewhere I could post pictures and show him I didn't need him to have a good life. Show him I had options. I'd seen my friend Bree do something similar with her boyfriend last year when he was taking her for granted. She went to Costa Rica by herself, posted all these photos looking amazing, and suddenly he was blowing up her phone begging her to come home. They're engaged now. So it works. When Mason and I fought about him choosing his brother over me, I knew it was time. I told him I was taking a trip, that I needed to think about us. I expected him to freak out. Expected him to ask where I was going, beg me not to leave, promise he'd cancel his plans with his brother. Instead, he just said okay. Told me to do what I needed to do. Just like that. Like he didn't even care. That threw me off, but I figured he was just processing. Guys take longer sometimes to realize what they're losing. I started researching flights, looking at hotels, planning the whole thing. I didn't tell him any details because honestly, I wanted him to sweat a little. Wanted him to wonder where I'd be, who I'd meet, what I'd be doing. Maybe then he'd realize he couldn't just take me for granted. I booked a week at this boutique hotel I found on Instagram. Wasn't cheap. I had to put it on my credit card, stretch my budget pretty thin, but it'd be worth it. I imagined him seeing my posts, seeing me living my best life without him, and finally understanding what he stood to lose. I imagined him calling me, texting me, maybe even showing up at the airport to stop me from leaving. Romantic, right? Like a movie. I told a couple friends what I was doing. My roommate Jess thought it was genius. She'd been there when Derek ghosted me, held me while I cried for weeks, and she was all for making Mason work for it. My friend Aisha was more hesitant, said it seemed manipulative, but she came around when I explained the whole pattern, how Mason was already checking out. She agreed he needed a wake-up call. The week before the trip, I barely heard from him. He texted a few times, casual stuff, asking about my day. But he didn't ask about the trip. Didn't ask when I was leaving, or where I was going. Didn't try to stop me. Part of me got nervous, but I told myself he was just playing it cool. Guys do that sometimes. They don't want to seem desperate. But when I actually left, when I posted that first photo from the airport with some caption about new adventures and finding myself, he'd crack. I was sure of it. I felt powerful booking that flight. Felt like I was finally taking control, instead of just waiting around to be abandoned again. This time I'd be the one calling the shots. This time I'd make him prove he wanted me. And if he didn't, well, then I'd know for sure he was like all the rest, and at least I'd have a vacation out of it.
I didn't check her Instagram right away. Honestly, I was trying not to think about the whole thing. I picked up extra shifts, helped my brother move like I planned, hit the gym harder than usual, kept myself busy. But then one of the guys at the station, Tony, asked if Layla and I were doing okay. Said he'd seen some posts that seemed weird. That's when I looked. She was in Mexico. Tulum, apparently. Pictures of her on the beach in a bikini, cocktails, sunset shots with captions about independence and self-discovery and not needing anyone's validation. Real subtle, you know? The kind of posts they're clearly meant for one person to see. And I just sat there staring at my phone in the station kitchen, feeling this weird mix of anger and relief. Anger because it was so obvious what she was doing. Relief because I finally had clarity. This wasn't about needing space. This was a game, a test. She wanted me to lose my mind, blow up her phone, beg her to come back. And the messed up part? A few months ago, I might have panicked and played right into it, because I would have thought that's what you're supposed to do when someone you care about pulls away. But I've been down this road before. Different scenery, same destination. My ex, the one I mentioned earlier, Sarah, she used to do stuff like this. Not trips, but tests. She'd pick fights out of nowhere, say we were done, then wait to see how hard I'd grovel. And I did grovel, man. For months. I bent over backwards, trying to prove I loved her, trying to show her I was committed, and it was never enough. Because the problem wasn't me. The problem was she needed the drama, needed the chaos, needed me to chase her to feel wanted. When I finally stopped, when I finally said I wasn't doing it anymore, she told everyone I'd given up on her, that I hadn't fought for the relationship. Didn't matter that I'd been fighting for a year straight. Didn't matter that I was exhausted. A few days in her trip, my buddy Chris came over with some beers. We were sitting on my porch, and he brought up Layla, said he'd been talking to his girlfriend Megan, who was friends with Layla's roommate. Apparently, Layla had told multiple people about this trip, framed it as this big power move to make me realize what I'd lose. Chris looked at me like he felt bad for me, and I just shook my head, told him I was done. It's weird how clear things become when you step back from them. All those fights, all those threats, all those ultimatums, none of it was about the actual issues. It was about control, about keeping me off balance, about making sure I was always proving myself, always chasing, always afraid she'd leave. That's not love. That's not even close to love. That's just exhausting. I thought about texting her, telling her we were done, but honestly, I didn't know her that. She'd already told me she was thinking about leaving. She was the one who went to Mexico to test me. So I just let her have her trip, let her post her photos, let her wait for me to react. And I didn't. When she got back, she texted me asking if we could talk. I called her instead of texting back because I'm not a complete asshole. Told her over the phone that I thought we wanted different things, that I needed someone who didn't threaten to leave every time things got hard, that I couldn't be in a relationship where I was constantly being tested. She got upset, said I was giving up on us, said she just needed space and I was being unfair. I didn't argue with her, just told her I hoped she found what she was looking for, and that was it. My friends were proud of me. Tony actually clapped me on the back the next shift, said it was about time I stopped letting someone mess with my head. Chris's girlfriend Megan told me I'd made the right call. Even my brother, who usually stays out of my relationship stuff, said I seemed lighter after. And I was. I felt like I could breathe again. Like I didn't have to constantly monitor everything I said or did. Like I could just exist without it being a problem. Few months after we broke up, I started hanging out more with Megan's friend Zoe. She was in our group, always around at parties and dinners, and we'd talked before, but never really connected. She was older than Layla by a few years, worked as a teacher, seemed to have her life together. We started grabbing coffee, then dinner, and it just felt easy, natural. No games, no tests, just two people enjoying each other's company. 6 months later, we were officially together. And yeah, I knew it might be awkward since Zoe ran in the same circles as Layla, but honestly, I wasn't going to avoid being happy just to make someone else comfortable.
He didn't call. Not once during the entire trip. Not even a text asking if I was okay. I kept checking my phone between margaritas and beach walks, waiting for his name to pop up on my screen, and nothing. By day 3, I started panicking. Posted more pictures, better captions, made sure I looked incredible in every single shot. Still nothing. By day 5, I was barely enjoying myself, just obsessively refreshing Instagram to see if he'd liked anything, viewed my stories, given any sign he cared. Radio silence. When I got home, I had $2,200 on my credit card and a sinking feeling in my stomach. I texted him that we needed to talk, trying to sound casual, and he called me within an hour. I thought that was a good sign. Thought maybe he'd been waiting for me to reach out first, playing some game of his own. But then he started talking, and I realized I'd miscalculated everything. He said we wanted different things. Said he couldn't be with someone who kept threatening to leave. Said he was done. I couldn't believe it. I'd been so sure he'd come crawling back. So sure the trip would remind him what he had. Instead, it just gave him permission to walk away. Jess tried to comfort me, said he'd realize his mistake eventually, but I could tell even she thought I'd messed up. Aisha straight up told me I'd pushed too hard, that you can't force someone to chase you. Thanks for that insight after the fact. The credit card bill came the next month. $2,200 I didn't have. I was already living paycheck to paycheck, barely covering rent and groceries on my support agent salary, and now I had this debt hanging over me. I picked up extra shifts, worked weekends, ate ramen and cereal for dinner most nights. Every time I transferred money to pay it down, I got angrier. At Mason for not reacting the way he was supposed to. At myself for thinking this would work. At Kyle and Derek and Matt for messing me up in the first place. Work got harder too. I was already burned out from dealing with angry customers all day, but now I was doing it constantly, no days off, and I could feel myself snapping more. Getting shorter with people. Crying in the bathroom on my breaks. My supervisor pulled me aside twice to ask if I was okay, and I lied and said I was fine. But I wasn't fine. I was drowning, and I had no one to talk to about it because the only person I'd been talking to about everything was Mason, and he was gone. Then about 4 months after the breakup, Megan invited me to her birthday dinner. I almost didn't go. I'd been avoiding group stuff because I knew people probably talked about me, and Mason probably had opinions about what happened. But Megan and I had been friends since college, and I didn't want to lose her too, so I went. And that's when I saw them. Mason walked in with Zoe, who I'd known for 3 years through Megan. Zoe, who'd been at parties where Mason and I were together. Zoe, who'd smiled to my face while apparently waiting for her chance. They looked comfortable together. Happy. He had his arm around her waist, and she was laughing at something he said, and I felt like I was going to throw up. I excused myself and hid in the bathroom for 20 minutes trying to compose myself. When I came back out, they were sitting at the table with everyone else, and I had to sit there through appetizers and dinner making small talk while watching my ex-boyfriend be affectionate with someone I knew. Someone in my friend group. Chris's girlfriend asked how I'd been, and I said great, busy with work, and she nodded, but I could see the pity in her eyes. Tony's girlfriend mentioned she'd just gotten back from Cancun and asked if I'd been there, clearly knowing I'd been to Tulum, clearly fishing. I said yes and changed the subject, but my face was burning. The worst part, everyone was nice to me. Painfully nice. Like they felt sorry for me. Like I was this fragile thing they had to handle carefully, while Mason and Zoe just got to be normal. Got to laugh and talk and exist without tiptoeing around anything. I left early, claimed I had an early morning, and cried the whole drive home. After that, I started declining invitations. Told Megan I was swamped with work. Told Aisha I wasn't feeling well. Came up with excuses for every party and dinner and hangout. Because I knew he'd be there. And I knew she'd be there. And I knew everyone would watch me watching them and feel sorry for me, and I couldn't handle it. Eventually, people stopped inviting me. Not maliciously, just naturally. I'd said no enough times that they figured I didn't want to come. A year after I'd tried dating a little bit, but nothing stuck. Guys would seem interested and then fade. Same pattern as always. And I didn't have the energy to chase them or test them or figure out what I was doing wrong. I'd see Megan occasionally for coffee, Just the two of us. And she'd mentioned in passing that Mason and Zoe were getting serious. Moving in together. Talking about the future. And I'd smile and say that was nice and change the subject, but inside I was screaming. I kept thinking about that trip. About how sure I'd been that it would work. About how confident I'd felt booking that hotel, planning those posts, imagining his reaction. I'd been so convinced I was taking control, proving my worth, making him see what he'd lose. Instead, I'd just proved that I didn't trust him, that I'd rather play games than communicate, that I value the performance of being wanted more than actually building something real. And it cost me everything. The relationship, the money, the friends, the life I'd been building. All of it gone because I needed him to chase me instead of just believing him when he said he wasn't going anywhere.